Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. My name is Trevor Lane. Happy to have you all here. Happy Free Agency Day officially starts today, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Free Agency will kick off, but we all know the real story. Free Agency's already started. Come on, they're already having these conversations. We already know D'Angelo Russell's going to the Dallas Mavericks, Dennis Schroeder's going to the Sacramento Kings, and Dorian Finney-Smith is going to the Houston Rockets. We know what's going on. Things can always change, but let's face it, these conversations, they're already happening. So we're going to talk about the latest going on around the free agent market, trades as well, what's happening. We're going to be taking your questions and comments. Oh, there he is joining me, Donnie Freeman. Donnie, we are hat coordinated today.
No, we're not.
We're both wearing black hats. That counts.
Okay.
That's cat.
I was going to say, I've got a bone to pick with you, though.
Why?
How come you didn't tell me this morning that I DM'd you when I thought I DM'd my thumbnail guy, but I DM'd you on accident. And I'm like, where's that thumbnail at? And then I look and I see, oh, it was Trevor. You must have not seen it yet, huh?
I guess not. What did you send me?
I sent you like 4 things for a thumbnail for a video. And and I'm like, I was like, where's that? Oh, it accidentally went to Trevor. Whoops.
Could have been worse. Could have been worse. All right, everybody. Let's talk through a number of different things going on around the free agent market.
Oh my
What's
God.
that?
The chat said sign Robert Sacre. I look over, and that's the first thing I see. I know it's not going to be a good stream today.
Yeah, no, Robert Sacre. I mean, hey, they are getting Brooke Lopez, which who is older? Brooke Lopez 37. It's got to be Sacre, right?
No,
it's got no. Brooke Lopez is older.
Lopez, I told you.
36. Oh no!
Shout out to the GOAT. Respect him. Activate TJ Benga. Oh no!
It's older than Robert Sacre. I wouldn't have guessed. All right, everybody. We got a lot to talk about. We got
breaking news too.
Yeah, we've got plenty of news. We've got obviously Day'Ron Sharpe back to the Nets. Zaire Williams also back to the Nets. Both of them. I think these are good deals for Brooklyn. 2 years, $12 million with a team option on the second year. Team option is certainly nice. Yes, Shams Charania did say that there's going to be some big deals today. In fact, we'll even play the clip of that so everybody can see what we're talking about here.
And we got Nick Batum a second ago. So
yes, so Nick Batum. Let's go to that right now. Nick Batum, a 2-year deal with the Clippers, and Donnie, this makes all kinds of sense.
Yeah,
the Clippers doing sensible things right now. A 2-year deal for Nick Batum. Deal includes a team option and a trade kicker. So, okay, if they have to put him in a trade, Batum will get compensated for that. But the team option for the second year, and that would align Nick Batum's deal with that of James Harden's new deal, with that of Kawhi Leonard. Everything for the Clippers is lining up for the summer of 2027 to be the year that they pivot and they move away from Kawhi and Harden and this current iteration of the Clippers. But they're doing a nice job so far, getting all their contracts structured this way. They're going to give this group a 2-year run here, and then they'll be able to move forward in 2027. I like what they're doing so far.
Yeah, I do too. I wonder who they're specifically trying to target that offseason. We'd have to look at some of the star players that could be on the market at that point. But, my favorite thing about Batum is how he looked washed, super duper washed in Charlotte, and he came to the Clippers and looks really good. So
he has battled his way back.
Awesome.
He's found a way. But you know what, Donnie, that happens. And I think that's something we have to remember with NBA players, especially veterans, where sometimes guys who are asked to take on a big role, right? Nicholas Batum used to be a big role guy when you think about his days in Portland and what he was supposed to do in Charlotte and all of that. Sometimes as guys get older, these big role players, you can extend their NBA lifespan if you move them into a smaller role, where instead of having to have this big burden on them, instead it's a much smaller burden and they can focus on specific things. That allows them to go from being the guy or the second guy or whatever in Nick Batum's case to being more of a role player, and they can extend their longevity in the league that way. And we do see guys sometimes generate like kind of a second life here in the NBA. And that's exactly what Nick Batum has done. And credit to him for making that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. He's turned into a great role player on that team. So good signing for him.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me go to some of your chat questions here. Is a Dorian Finney-Smith sign and trade unlikely? Yes, I don't. I think it's I know there's word out there from Kelly Iko of The Athletic that the Rockets are scheduling meetings with Dorian Finney-Smith, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Look, technically, until pen is put to paper, anything can still happen. But I mean, I was hearing last night that it was not looking good between with the Lakers and Dorian Finney-Smith. Now that it's pretty. I mean, when Mark Stein is putting out there the number of years on the deal, that tells you it's a 4-year deal, most likely here for Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't think a sign and trade is happening because the Rockets don't need the Lakers' help to sign him. They have the full mid-level exception due to Fred VanVleet taking the contract that he did, the $25 million deal. That opened up the full MLE for the Houston Rockets. And so they'll sign him. And I love the fit. Look, as sad as I am for my Lakers, it is a great fit for the Houston Rockets. He will be a phenomenal addition to that team. Does that affect the Lakers' access to the full MLE? Yes, it provides it. That's the silver lining for the Lakers. It will provide access to the full mid-level exception for them. Donnie, what do you think, though, about Dorian Finney-Smith slipping away from the Lakers?
Unfortunate, especially given that they had to give up those seconds for him and basically only got him for, half a year. And he was a really good piece for them last year, a huge part of them changing the defense, and he was really vital to what they were doing. Allowed them to he unlocked some lineups for them as well, where they could play more small ball and things that fit better with what JJ wanted to do, and DFS was huge for them. And you're not going to really find a lot of guys like DFS out there also. And I also liked the grittiness from him. The Lakers haven't really had a lot of guys like that over the last number of years that are the quote unquote dogs out there. I would like for them to retain him if possible, but at that point, I mean, it kind of is what it is. It seems like they're quibbling over years. And if I'm DFS, that's understandable. You want to get as much long-term security as possible. And I was listening to you just a second ago, in fact, on LN talking about that with LeBron and how that could be a thing as well. And yeah, the Lakers do appear like they're trying to really value that long-term flexibility, and DFS may not have fit in that equation.
Yeah. And if that's what's going on there, if it's a year's problem, that's where maybe LeBron looks and says, well, if you guys are just trying to keep your books clean for 2026, that doesn't help me win right now. So maybe I don't want to be, part of this. So we'll see where all that goes. That'll be interesting. As far as, let's say they receive Whitmore or something like that. I don't, even if let's say the Lakers signed and traded Dorian Finney-Smith to the Rockets and they get back Cam Whitmore, let's say they did go down that path, that would not change the Lakers' access to the full MLE. Nor would that necessarily hard cap them at the first apron. They're using the full MLE would anyway. So it kind of round and around we go there, but you have to be receiving the player that was signed and then traded to trigger a hard cap at the first apron in a sign and trade scenario. So if you're trading for a player, if you sign and trade player X, but you receive player Y from the team you're trading with, and player Y is already under contract, you don't hard cap yourself. Absolutely. If that makes sense.
Okay. To anybody wondering also from Twitter, because I did see a couple comments on it, the channel is the Basketball Bulletin. So make sure you check it out. And if you're watching and you're new, make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hit that subscribe button. Let me ask you guys this, though. Where would you rank Houston now? Assuming Finney-Smith is indeed bound for Houston. Where does Houston rank in the Western Conference right now? Obviously, we got to wait. The dust has to settle in free agency. But is Houston now the number 2 team? I know they were the second seed last year, but are they definitively the second best team in the West behind OKC?
I think with the West teams, it's more so about separating yourself from the pack. And I think adding KD, adding DFS, they may be doing that. I think that's so. To answer your question, as it stands, if they get DFS and no other team makes a significant upgrade on paper, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I think KD solves so many of their problems that they had last year. Yeah. I think Dorian Finney-Smith fits that team's MO perfectly, and that's going to be a really nice addition for them. I love what Houston has done this offseason.
It's a nice replacement for Dylan. Like super solid replacement for Dylan. Absolutely.
Couldn't have gone much better than the way that the offseason has gone right now for the Houston Rockets. I thought they got a great deal on Kevin Durant. And now looks like they are going to be getting Dorian Finney-Smith in free agency. So I do like that for them as well. I was going to play the clip, but I'll just say, Shams Charania said there's going to be big deals tonight. Remember, free agency does begin. Once again, I said it off the top, but 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, free agency will start. And that's where you'll actually hear player X signs with or agrees to sign with team Y. They can't officially sign until July 6th. That's when the moratorium lifts and the players can actually put pen to paper and sign the contract, but you can agree to terms now. That said, Donnie, we talked about it off the top. We know these conversations are already happening. Like we already know D'Angelo Russell is going to, in the strongest terms possible, without actually saying he has already agreed with them. It's been reported that D'Angelo Russell is going to get a 2-year deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Dennis Schroeder is going to get a 2-year, probably full MLE deal. And by the way, D'Angelo Russell will be a taxpayer MLE, so it'll be about $12 million. Dennis Schroeder is going to get a 2-year, roughly full MLE deal with the Sacramento Kings to go be their starting point guard. And now Dorian Finney-Smith likely going to the Houston Rockets. So for everybody out there who said, what, free agency doesn't even start, why are you mad at this team or whatever for not talking to these guys? That's against the rules. It's happening. Let's be adults here. Yeah. It's happening. All these conversations are already being had. We're just going to get let in on them when the buzzer sounds at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Absolutely. I feel like we already know a good number of the guys, especially like, that have been popping up over the last couple of days. It's pretty straightforward where some of these guys are going. And really the main thing that's changing is Shams will be putting out the whole breaking. So-and-so tends to go here for X contract. But like you said, with some of these guys like D'Lo, Schroeder, we already know where they're going unless something drastic changes.
All right, let's go here. There's another Lakers question. By the way, we're not just Lakers here. We cover the whole league. But what would the Lakers have to give up for Jakob Poeltl? Well, about $20 million in salaries, plus assets. The Toronto Raptors very clearly like him. There were rumors that they look to maybe not include him in a Kevin Durant deal. So I mean, you're probably talking about building something on Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect in terms of your salary matching, and then some type of an asset from there. And that price may be too high to pay for a team like the Lakers, particularly with, from what I've heard, they're targeting free agent centers, DeAndre Ayton being one of them, but I've heard some strong connections on Brook Lopez as well for the Lakers. So we'll see, how that all plays out. Dan Wojcicki did have today that they are really looking to maintain that future flexibility, which Donnie and I already talked about, which if that's true, we will see that play out in the deals that they sign or don't sign, in that they will just be 1-year deals or maybe a 2-year deal with a team option or something like that to maintain that future flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder about that, but what happens with Ayton here? Do you think we're going to get Ayton news today, or do you think we're going to wait a couple of days? Because I mean, I assume he's clearing waivers. Nobody's picking that up.
He doesn't clear waivers until Wednesday. So that's obviously a little bit of a wait. So we're going to be waiting.
Stop. Stop.
I couldn't help it.
No, that's not even a dad joke. That's a grandpa joke. Stop. but I'd assume that because like I said, I know he clears on Wednesday. I'd assume that we still get the announcement sooner than Wednesday, though, because there's always the once so-and-so clears waivers, they intend to sign with.
Correct. Exactly. That's what I expect. We'll get something when he clears waivers. DeAndre Ayton is expected to sign with Team X. That's what I think we are going to get to. I don't think it's going to be truly a, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we get breaking news, DeAndre Ayton's picking this team. I think it'll be more, it may not be today, it might be tomorrow or something, but I think before Wednesday, we're going to hear something on what he intends to do.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
And then I do think that tonight we'll get some deals, though. Now, some of them may not happen. I think we'll get, like, some of the ones we've already heard, we'll get almost immediately. Yeah. But it may be kind of a deals trickle out tonight, because the NBA, and there's been, I think people have been more brazen about it this year than in years past, because the NBA has been, going around slapping wrists, because they don't want, in years past anyway, they don't want it to seem like free agency, all these conversations are happening ahead of time, because technically it's tampering, right? It is, but it's happening around the league. And again, the fact that we already know where D'Angelo Russell is going, we already know where Dennis Schroeder is going. The NBA has been and for how much, how many years, all that, the NBA has been trying to put a stop to that stuff for a long time. And it does feel like things are a little bit more brazen this year. So I wonder if the NBA will have a response to that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I kind of wonder about that, but at the latest, I'd assume tomorrow we know mostly everything.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to get a lot tonight. And then tomorrow we'll get some other the big news. Like Nickeil Alexander-Walker may take a day or two to go actually visit some teams and stuff like that. The word is it's the Hawks or the Pistons. And last we saw was that the Hawks were moving into the lead in that situation, and that was from Mark Stein. So that's that's probably the way this goes. But he's also supposed to meet with the Houston Rockets. He's going to talk to a few other teams as he figures this out. By the way, this is a great time to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker because he is the most in-demand free agent out there. He fits so well with so many teams. And what a difference from being the throw-in in the Mike Conley trade and D'Angelo Russell trade and Russell Westbrook trade to now he's the guy that's the most sought-after player right now in free agency. Pretty impressive rise for him.
Yeah, he sounds like he's the guy that they're going to put up billboards for and do all that extra stuff.
I miss those days, Donnie.
Yeah.
I miss those days. Those were so fun.
Yeah.
When it was, this guy's taking his free agency tour. We talked about it before, but people are tracking the plane and all that kind of stuff.
We don't get that anymore, man.
No.
All that those days, free agency mostly is like, secondary nowadays. Like it's like most of the stuff gets done via trades now. So
yeah.
Those were good days.
Let's see. Let's go. Dorian Finney-Smith to Houston. What did I miss? What years are they offering? Looks like it's 4 years and could be a full MLE for him.
That's not something that's obviously confirmed / done yet.
It's a rumor, but
it's one of those likely rumors because we've already got the years and everything out there. I meant to ask you earlier, back to Ayton. Do we know how much he gave back?
Not yet. Somebody mentioned, I want to say it was Windhorst or somebody said he gave back quite a bit, but here's what would happen in a situation like that. And this is very typical of all buyouts is that the player will typically give back the amount they're going to get from their next team. So if Ayton gave back 14 million, which obviously that's a lot of incentive for the Blazers to say, okay, we'll save $14 million. We didn't want to play you anyway. We want to give Hanson Yang minutes. We want to give minutes to Donovan Clingan and Rob Williams and all the other guys that we've got. If he gave back 14 million, then I think you can just kind of pencil in that DeAndre Ayton is going to take the full mid-level exception from whatever team he signs with.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. I guess we should get back to announcing some of this stuff.
Yeah. Day'Ron Sharpe did get a 2-year deal already with the Nets. Zaire Williams did as well. What else did we have today? Joe Ingles returning to the Wolves. Good story there. The Wolves, the really touching story about Joe Ingles and his son getting to see the game and that the Wolves starting him to make sure that his son got to see him play. And
that's cool.
And all of that. That was a great story. We talked about that already earlier this year.
I love that. That type of stuff's really cool. It kind of got lost in the shuffle yesterday, but Bojan Bogdanovic announced his retirement as well.
He did. A target for a number of teams for a while, but just dealt with so many injuries.
Yeah.
Over the last few
seasons. He was
a
bucket, man. He was a bucket.
He was. He is the archetype that a guy like Dalton Connect could potentially follow. That kind of scorer. Colin Gillespie signing a 1-year contract to return to the Phoenix Suns. Not a surprise there. They're going to keep him back. He did some good things. Johnny Juzang was waived. We'll talk about the Jazz in just a minute. We've got a super chat about that. Team option on the 2nd year for Zaire Williams. I think that's about where we're up to date. Yep. We're up to date there on the latest. So let me get back into some of our super chats here. We'll talk about what's happened so far. Let's see. Jazz rebalanced the roster but got fleeced. Will they also dump Collins and Clarkson?
There was a report that there's no market for Clarkson.
Right. And to me, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He's not been efficient at all for quite a while. And put up the Jazz salary sheets here. I understand why. And now, would there be a market if the Jazz were willing to take on a longer-term salary for him? Sure. I could see something like that. But our team's going to be tripping over themselves to go get a 33-year-old Jordan Clarkson who has not had a solid shooting season in a while. And that's his primary skill is scoring the basketball? Probably not. Probably not. So I understand. I wouldn't think there'd be a big market for Jordan Clarkson. If they're going to move him, probably would be in combination with another player somewhere. John Collins, though, I think the Jazz absolutely should move him. I don't think he's part of their future. But the question is, what kind of return can they get? I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if they go into the season with him on the roster, and they certainly could move him by the trade deadline. So I don't think there's urgency to get him off the team or anything. But yes, eventually, I don't think, let me put it this way. Next summer, I don't think John Collins will stay with the Utah Jazz. So sometime between now and the trade deadline, they need to move him and get what they can for him, because I don't think he makes sense as part of their long-term future there.
Yeah, he's also a nice mid-sized contract. I think a team would be willing to buy on that, but it may take until the deadline.
Yeah. This Zach, are the rumors true about Rob calling teams to tank DFS's value and his team found out about it? If it's true, Rob should be fired. Love the channel, guys. Where's that coming from?
I have not heard that.
Yeah,
I've not heard it. So I've heard people calling Rob shady, but he's always been called that.
Yeah, where is that one coming from? I can't confirm or deny anything on that. Let me just say that. I don't want to delve into that.
Oh, okay.
Because I can't officially confirm that kind of stuff. That it's been going around a little bit, but I can't confirm that. I need to be more responsible there.
Stop, Trevor.
Stop. I don't get them wanting money for a superstar for next year. There isn't anyone other than Jaren Jackson Jr., and he'll stay with Memphis. Well, remember, whether you're talking about the Lakers or anybody else, flexibility in terms of your salary cap doesn't necessarily have to be just used on free agents. You can also use that to help facilitate trades and things of that nature. So it doesn't have to just be, hey, free agent X is available to go chase.
Yep, absolutely.
4 years for a 32-year-old that clearly slowed down. Ideally would like to be able to use $9 million of the mid-level on Ayton, another $5 million on Bruce Brown, have the biannual exception to use. Yeah, I think that would be ideal.
Yeah.
If you were to get if you were able to get the biannual and be able to use all that kind of stuff. And especially if you're able to split the MLE, that would be ideal. I don't know if it'll be possible. It might take the full MLE just to get somebody. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years, 32 is tricky because I don't know that his skill set wouldn't still be good a few years from now. Or 4 years for a 32-year-old. Like, I don't know that it wouldn't still be good a few years from now because he's a corner shooter. He's a positional defender. Like, I think he could still do what he does. But the question is to me, isn't so much about the years. Yeah, the years are a question, if you're a team trying to look towards the future. But if he wanted $8 million over 4 years, like, that'd be different, right? But he probably wants closer to the mid-teens for each year for 4 years. Like, that's a big difference.
Exactly. I think that's what is going on with that situation, especially if the Lakers specifically are looking to keep their future flexibility. I get why they'd be hesitant to do that, that kind of deal. And that's, whether or not there's any rumors about like Finney Smith not being happy with them or anything else that has gone on. Ultimately, a 4-year deal for a 32-year-old, it is a lot. And I think there's an explanation for why the Lakers would not want to do that kind of a deal. That's beyond getting into the drama of it. That's purely cap and transactional. You know what I mean?
If I did that, I think I would try to put an option towards the end of it.
Oh, for sure.
But he probably wouldn't want to go for that. He'd just want
Team
the full
option.
guarantee no matter what. So no, if I'm Rob, I'm putting the player option in the last year.
Oh no. Oh no.
Rob loves the player options. We talked about it yesterday.
Oh man. What do you think about, Donnie? What do you think about the rumors that the Sacramento Kings are now looking to not get just Dennis Schroeder, but perhaps Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook, and they want to bring in Westbrook to be like the backup.
That backup to Dennis? Oh,
yeah.
That's I don't know if Russ goes there to be a backup to Dennis. That's one thing. Wasn't Dennis his backup in LA? Didn't for that first part of that season? Yeah, they did. That first part of the season, they had like 6 guards, right? They had Nunn, they had Beverly, they had
they did. That's right. They tried to play Pat Bev, Dennis Schroeder, and Russell Westbrook together. Oh my God. I didn't dream that. That really did happen. Oh, no.
And then, like I said, they were trying to get Nunn minutes in there too. There was someone else too. Oh, man. That's terrible. On the Kings thing, yeah, I don't know if Russ wants to be a backup, but I mean, if the Kings want to be competitive and they're going to try to be a 500 team, I mean, sure, right? I think that's fine. They're in a similar position. They don't have a lot of options either. This team's, if you're trying to grab a player off the free agent market, you don't have a lot of options. And then if you're the Kings trying to do it, you really don't have options. So there's that. But I think Russ should just stick in Denver. I thought he was pretty good for them for the most part last year.
I agree.
And I think that's where he should just stay. And I think if you're Denver, you don't want to lose Russ.
Yeah, I do think Denver's the best fit for him because here's what I keep coming back to, Donnie. Like, conceptually, what would be the ideal environment for Russell Westbrook to be successful? You would want a team that has a lot of stability, that has a group of strong players that have been carried over, that have already a team culture that Russell Westbrook would fit into, that would allow him his opportunities to do his thing, while still also providing plenty of structure to rein him in and limit some of the things that get Russell Westbrook so much criticism. Well, I'm basically describing the Denver Nuggets. Like that's Denver. And I don't know how many other teams would fit that. Certainly not the Sacramento Kings. Now, Donnie, that said, I hope it happens for my own entertainment value.
You're going to be hate watching the Kings.
Oh, I will watch.
How low can you go, man?
Oh, man. That would be phenomenal.
But does Russ fit into the plans of the new front office and everything there too?
He shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I thought he was good for them, and they don't really have a lot of options. But
I'm sorry. Did you mean Denver or the Kings?
Denver, yeah, Denver.
Oh, Denver, yeah.
Because they've got a whole new front office and everything there.
Right. Yeah. If it's the Kings too, but if it's Denver, I think he should fit there. Because I don't are you going to get somebody on the market that's going to be better? Now, maybe you could argue Tyus Jones is more of a low mistake guy. And if you could replace Russ with him, okay, he's not nearly as explosive, obviously, but could he be a better game manager as your backup point guard? I think you can make arguments like that. But in lieu of getting Tyus Jones, who's, by the way, been connected with the Knicks today, in lieu of getting him, or say a Malcolm Brogdon, I would prefer Malcolm Brogdon if I'm the Denver Nuggets. But if you can't get those guys, just bring back Russ. Let's give Russ some credit. He was better than I expected him to be with the Denver Nuggets. And I thought there were games where he did Russ things, but there were also some games where he was really good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, geez. Now Legion Hoops is running with that.
The Rob thing?
Yeah.
Well, I've learned that Legion kind of just posts whatever if it means they'll get clicks. And they purposely also post things without context if it means they'll get clicks. So whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting. The thing today, I think they posted something today about there being no trade market for LeBron. Everybody ran with that, like no one wants to trade for LeBron. I'm like, that was not the context of what was.
No, I listened to what he said, and it wasn't because there was nobody that would want him. It was because nobody was prepped for it, and it would take a lot to move him. It's it was entirely different, but they do stuff like that all the time. So,
yeah. All right, let's go here. Maybe we dodged a bullet with Dorian Finney-Smith if his defense declines, he's nowhere near as valuable. Yeah, that's very true. And that's where a 4-year deal is legitimately a risk. So whether or not there's any truth to any of the drama stuff, and to be fair, I've heard some of that stuff, but I can't confirm any of that's true. And even if it is, though, there's a contractual reason, I think, for the Lakers to not be willing to do a 4-year deal for Dorian Finney-Smith. So would you guys have given him 4 years? Not ideally. And we don't know what the other options are. Brian Windhorst did say today that the Lakers are going to be looking for another wing out there. Not a surprise. I think a lot of teams are going to be looking for wing players, but what if they already have a fallback option? What if there's somebody that they say, hey, we can get this guy that maybe isn't quite as good as Dorian Finney-Smith, but he only wants a 1-year deal. And then that provides future flexibility. That's something we have to keep in mind with these conversations.
Yeah, I agree with you. Guys in the chat, could we stop with all the fake trades? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Nobody
all the
enjoys
confirmed so-and-so, this and that. Just let's stop it.
It's dumb. It's dumb. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. What about Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado? Herb Jones is very much not available. I mean, look, I shouldn't say that. For an overpay, sure. For Jared Vanderbilt, no. There's zero chance. And I'm not even talking about Jose Alvarado here, just Herb Jones. Zero chance the Pelicans will move on from him. I thought Joe Dumars made a mistake with the Derek Queen move. We'll see. Maybe he's proven right. Maybe Derek Queen is awesome. I think that puts a lot of pressure on Queen to be awesome and prove Joe Dumars right. I think you're giving up potentially a lottery pick next year to the Atlanta Hawks with that trade that they made. I'm still shocked that other teams didn't pull the trigger on that deal when it was offered to them. But I can't imagine the Pelicans moving on from Herb Jones. He is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, one of the best contracts in the NBA. I know he's coming off of an injury situation, but still, I can't imagine the Pelicans are going to be super eager about moving him, let alone him and Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, I don't think so. But if you could pull that off, you go for it. Two guys that weren't really a big part of your rotation for two guys that would be. Go for it.
Yeah.
Legion Hoops deleted the post. Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Again, you don't want to just throw stuff like that out there, in my opinion. What happened to Tyus Jones? Wasn't he the best backup point guard in the league one season? He was, particularly when he was with the Grizz. And I think he's one of those guys that when he's put into a starting role, and he was okay with the Wizards as a starter, went to Phoenix, and his deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball were compounded with the Suns because everybody had those same deficiencies. I still think he can have a bounce back year somewhere, and maybe the Knicks would be a good fit for him, perhaps, although Towns behind him protecting the rim maybe isn't ideal. But Tyus Jones, I think, could be a really good player, can be one of the better backups, maybe the best backup point guard in the NBA. I think the question is, can he make that jump to being a starter? And that seems to be a little bit of a problem for him. But I still think he's a really solid game manager that can be a highly efficient offensive player that needs to be on the right team to be allowed to really shine.
Yeah, and I think you need specific things around him. I think he'd be good in Dallas, for example, as a backup guard option for them, especially with AD over there that can protect him and help bring up for his defensive deficiencies and things like that. But, I don't know if he's going to ever be a starting guard, but he was really good in that stint as the backup in Memphis and could be really good as well for a number of teams.
All right, let's go here. Thanks for never answering my questions, Trevor.
We actually do.
What questions are you answering? Are you asking? Ask good questions, and I'll answer them. Ask good questions, and I'll answer them.
Yeah.
News on Mark Williams. Mark Williams went to the Suns. That deal, although I guess will be interesting to see what happens with his physical. Being
over DFS, huh?
Being a frustrated Lakers fan, being told the outlook is waiting for next year for a max player with Luka for keeping our assets, I'm assuming we're signing someone who's the fit with Luka. I mean, again, I've heard a lot of buzz around Brook Lopez. We'll see if that happens. Maybe the DeAndre Ayton situation changes that, but that it'll be interesting to watch to see what they do if they really are determined to have flexibility in 2026 and what that might mean for their actions this summer. It could lead to an underwhelming offseason this year for the Lakers if they really are dead set on having flexibility for 2026.
Yeah, and the chat has been absolutely grilling and frying and every other thing you could say about Brook the entire stream. So I don't think they're all too happy about that.
No, and I mentioned it over on Lakers Nation. I wouldn't be super thrilled either, especially if it's a full MLE. I wouldn't be super thrilled
full
with that.
MLE? No.
I don't know if that's what it's going to be or not, but
No.
But again, everything I heard was pre-Aiden, so
yeah.
I think that's got to change the situation.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, like, I can kind of see a semi fit with Luka. Like, there's value in having a trailing top of the key 3-point shooter, for example. I think he could be that. I think everyone is super duper focused on a lob threat, and I do think that you need that. But if you were able to also get a lob threat stylistically, switching to a bruising 3-and-D type center, I mean, he still blocked like 2 shots a game last year. It's just fans don't really want to see a big, lumbering, slow-footed older guy out there, right? They were super critical of Mark a few years ago, even though Mark analytically was super good for the team. So
exactly, he was when you dug into the advanced stats and everything, he was really good for the team.
I believe this may be a bit like, crusty memory, but like, I think he was analytically the best center they had in that AD tenure.
He was.
So like, I don't know, but I can see a little bit of a fit, but I do think if you get Brook, you need to get an actual lob rim roller type guy. And I mean, maybe Ayton takes, gives up less, and so he can sign for less. Maybe you could put him with Brook. I don't know.
Yeah, I would. I think that would be the ideal scenario at this point. Would be if you could split the MLE between a couple of guys. That's probably the ideal scenario for the Lakers at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what they can find on the trade market and all of that.
Yep.
All right. Let's go. Mock trade. LeBron and Bron. Yeah, if LeBron ever got traded, you'd have to just assume Bronny's getting traded as well. To the Mavs for Daniel Gafford, PJ, and whoever else. I do think the Mavs would be an interesting team to keep an eye on in that situation. Whoever else to make money work, or LeBron to the Rockets for Adams and Tari Eason. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the kind of return you'd be looking at. Like, if you were to ask for a trade, you're not going to get crazy value. Like, you're not getting like Evan Mobley or something like that for him. You're just not.
Yeah, you're not. You're not gonna. I mean, like we said when KD's trade went through, like that would be a good thing to look at, right? As a reference, right? But all right, chat. All right, Trev, I gotta run. Gotta go.
You gotta run. I'll stay on for a bit here and talk through some of these other things that we got going on. Some non-Lakers stuff for sure.
Yep.
We'll talk about
all
here
right,
too. Donnie, thanks for stopping by. Senpai said, skeptic in me says Rob will punt just to get Bron to request a trade. Why would he want LeBron to request a trade, though? I mean, I know they won't trade him if he don't, but do they really want to trade him? Like, he brings in a lot of money for the team for sure. Won't complain if he gets to the East Coast in the East, best destinations, long non-LA view. So from LeBron's perspective, like the Cavs, now they're a second-tier apron team, so that could be pretty challenging. The Knicks, I think, would be another team that would be really fascinating. What about the Pistons? What about the Pistons? Like, a young up-and-coming team. Now, maybe they're not a glamour team and all that, and realistically, probably preferred New York or going back home to Cleveland. But I mean, the Pistons are an up-and-coming team that could make some sense. Playing with Cade Cunningham, taking over that Tobias Harris role. I do think the East makes a lot of sense. But if you're Nico Harrison and you're the Mavs, and you suddenly have the chance to put LeBron with Kyrie and Anthony Davis, and you've got the trio, I can see them really making a push and really going for it if you're Dallas. I can see that happening. So I think there's some interest. But if you're LeBron, in terms of you want to win a championship, or any other player, you want to win a championship, go East. Much easier path. And that's not me taking a shot at the Eastern Conference teams. I'm not trying to poke fun of them. It's just a fact. The East is an easier path to the finals, particularly, unfortunately, it's tragic what's gone on with all these injuries, all these Achilles injuries. Halliburton, Tatum, Lillard, all of them with Achilles injuries. Suns officially announced the acquisition of Mark Williams, by the way. But the East is it's a clearer path. So if you're LeBron and you say, hey, the Lakers, they're worried about the future. They're not trying to win right now. And that's true. If that's true and you want to trade, go East, man. Go East. You want to win a championship. Go East. You're going to have the best shot at making it through and giving yourself a finals appearance. Wouldn't that be something? LeBron to the Mavs for AD. Trade back for Anthony Davis. That would be funny. That would be funny. All right, let me see what else we've got going on here in the chat. By the way, remember, this is going to be free agency starting 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be live on Lakers Nation. I think the front office show as well during the start of free agency. We'll keep an eye on things. TK Baller said, Trevor, please come out of the offseason live. I tallied it up, and I think I was live for like 6.5 hours, something like that yesterday. It's a long day, but I love this time of year in the NBA. It's so much fun. The end of July, August, I get to rest then. Right now, this is go time. This is go time. Am I on with Keith later? We'll see how Keith's doing. If you followed his X account, he's hanging in there. He had a small procedure this morning, but we'll see how he's doing later on today. What do I think of the market for Bruce Brown Jr.? That's a great question. Bruce Brown is going to be, I think, in high demand because he fits in with so many different teams. The question is going to be, how much will teams be willing to give him? Will some team be willing to go full MLE on Bruce Brown? Because if they are, that's obviously going to put him in a spot that will put the taxpayer mid-level teams out of reach. But a full MLE for Bruce Brown might be a little bit more than teams are willing to go. He wasn't great with the Pels. He really has not been particularly good. He's been okay, but he's dealt with some injuries, has not been as good as he was during his heyday in Denver when they won the championship. And he's kind of been living off of that reputation a little bit. So I still like Bruce Brown. I think he's a good player. I think he's somebody that can fit a lot of teams, and that's a key. It's part of the reason why Nickeil Alexander-Walker is such a desired commodity out there on the free agent market. It's because it's not just that he's a good player. He's a good player, and he fits with the team concept of so many different squads. So that's really important too. And Bruce Brown is similar in that he also fits in a lot of different places. So I think he will have a pretty robust market. I don't know if it'll be full MLE or not for him, though. But I do think there's going to be a number of teams interested in him because he fits so many different places. So conversely, if you take a player that is, for example, like Tyus Jones, would have a much more narrow market. Not that he's not a good player, but how many teams specifically are looking for a point guard that has defensive deficiencies that could be a backup or sometimes starter? That's a narrower scope of teams that are going to be looking for that specific skill set. Whereas Bruce Brown, defensive, switchy guard / wing, can create for you a little bit, can do some things on or off the ball, right? Like, it's just a more versatile skill set that can be plugged into a lot of different teams, and that is going to serve to widen the market for Bruce Brown. Let's see what else we've got here. What do I think happens with Jonathan Kuminga? Whoa! Breaking news. We were just talking about him. Jordan Clarkson bought out by the Utah Jazz. I need a breaking news button on this channel. I never put one on this channel. My mistake. Breaking news. Jordan Clarkson bought out by the Utah Jazz. Now, similar to DeAndre Ayton, this will change everything. I'm going to get to the Kuminga comment in just a moment, but similar to DeAndre Ayton had no trade market. Why? Because teams couldn't get to that $36 million in salary, $35.5 million for DeAndre Ayton. Jordan Clarkson has no market because he's not been that good. And so teams aren't going to want to give up things to get him. And if you're the Jazz and you have to take on future salary in order to trade Jordan Clarkson, well, that's not worth it. You'd rather just let him expire. So with that being the case, he's kind of stuck in Utah. Now his whole market changes. This changes everything for Jordan Clarkson. Now, as a free agent, teams will take a chance on him. Teams will take a chance on Jordan Clarkson and say, well, maybe in our system, maybe on a better team, you're not going to shoot 41% from the field. Maybe on a better team, you're not going to shoot 29% from three like you did last year, or 36% from that's not bad this year, but in a limited sample size, 37 games played, your percentages are going to come up. 32% couple seasons or 4 seasons ago, 34% after that. You need those numbers up, right? If you're Jordan Clarkson, look at the turnovers, way too high. 3, 2.7, 2.3, too high for a microwave, ideally off the bench scorer like Jordan Clarkson. So could you see those numbers like we talked about with Nick Batum, where suddenly the burden gets lessened on a better team, and that allows Jordan Clarkson to then return to efficiency and be more impactful in a smaller role on a better squad? That will be the calculation now for teams with Jordan Clarkson. Much more appealing now because you don't have to give up anything to get him. And for the Jazz, if the only things they could find for him involve longer-term salary, they're better off doing this. They'll get a little bit of money back. Jordan Clarkson gets to go find a team that'll take a shot on him. And the other bit is because he's giving back money. So Jordan Clarkson is still going to get paid by the Utah Jazz. What's he at? 13 million, I believe. Maybe it's more than that. Let me look. Jordan Clarkson, 14 million. I wasn't far off. 14 million. So let's say Jordan Clarkson gives back, I would guess, he gave back $3 million, roughly. That's what I would guess Jordan Clarkson gave back, $3 million. And if you're the Utah Jazz, you say, okay, we'll pay $11 million. $3 million is a lot of money. We'll save that money. And we will give Jordan Clarkson the ability to be a free agent. Okay, we'll take the $3 million off of his payment. So the Jazz, let's say hypothetically, are still going to pay him 11. That means whatever team gets Jordan Clarkson, in order to make him whole, similar to the DeAndre Ayton situation, all they have to do is give him a minimum contract about $3 million. And so the calculation for Jordan Clarkson goes from you have to give up things to get Clarkson, and you're going to pay him $14 million, and you're not 100% sure how efficient he's going to be, versus you're going to pay him a minimum contract because the Jazz are paying the rest of his salary, and you don't have to give up anything to get him because he's a free agent. Boom. Instant market for Jordan Clarkson. That changes the entire dynamic of Jordan Clarkson's value around the NBA. So again, do I expect that Jordan Clarkson's going to come in somewhere and set the world on fire and completely shift the balance of power in the NBA or something? No. But this takes a market and changes it in a very positive way for Clarkson. Okay? That's the deal. So I like that for Jordan Clarkson, and it'll be interesting to see where he lands. Off the top of my head, basically any team that's got a real shot that could use some scoring off the bench would be interesting. For example, what if they're losing Ty Jerome? What if he were to land with his former team, the Cleveland Cavs? What if he were to go there? I think there are teams that could use what he's got as a scorer if that efficiency can be found again. So, pretty big deal for him. Could Jordan Clarkson technically sign for like $9 million? Yeah, he could, but there would be offset too with his previous contract. So that would account for a portion of it, would go back to his previous team. So he wouldn't even get all of that. So keep that in mind. Typically what guys do is they'll sign a contract for the amount that they gave back. That's typically what they do. So that's pretty big news there. Orlando, sure. I mean, they already got Des Bane, but Orlando could be an option. And I did have that question before the Clarkson news broke on Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga, I think we wind up seeing a sign and trade here. I think Jonathan Kuminga winds up getting signed and traded to somewhere that wants to give him that bigger role. Maybe it is Chicago. They've been named as a potential suitor. Miami, I think, would be interesting as well. They've had interest in him. They wanted him to be part of the Jimmy Butler trade. I think there's enough interest in Jonathan Kuminga around the NBA, and there's enough skepticism about his fit still today with Draymond, with Steph, with Jimmy, that it just seems to make sense to move on from him. The question is, what can Golden State get back? Do they just get a trade exception back in some kind of a deal? Is there some way that they can get something more than that? But I do see Jonathan Kuminga somewhere else. Could be wrong, but that's, to me, conceptually, that makes the most sense. Is Jonathan Kuminga winding up signing and trading somewhere else? The Hawks, sure. The Hawks are already pretty well stocked on the wings when they've got Jalen Johnson, Zachary Sachet, Dyson Daniels, of course. They've got pretty good wings, but and then Onyeka Okongwu can flip between the 4 and the 5 depending on what lineups you're running. They picked up Kristaps Porzingis, but still they have a $25 million trade exception that would make it very easy to just say, hey, Jonathan Kuminga, we're going to give you $25 million, and you're going to go right in this trade exception. The Warriors would receive a $25 million trade exception, and boom, off you go. There it is. Now, the challenge, of course, is Jonathan Kuminga reportedly wants $30 million. And that's reportedly also what he turned down, I believe, from the Warriors last summer. So if he wants that money, or at least a little bit less than that, if he wants that money, that may make it a little bit trickier to find a landing spot for Kuminga. But the Hawks at least have that big trade exception to make some sense with. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Trevor, none of the LeBron trade stuff makes sense. No team wants to trade for him, and the Lakers. I wouldn't assume no team wants to trade for him. The Lakers preach they take care of their stars. A lot of fake posturing, like Dallas, is not realistic. So, again, I don't think LeBron necessarily wants to be traded. I don't think the Lakers really want to trade LeBron. But if their idea here moving forward is we're going to keep our cap space clean for 2026, then the Lakers' goals may not align with LeBron's goals, because that would say the Lakers aren't necessarily all in to win this season. Instead, they're focused on future seasons. And at that point, LeBron may say, okay, well, I want to go to a team then that is focused on winning just this season and not worried so much about the future. We can argue whether or not that's the right decision for the Lakers, but that is where you could wind up with LeBron being on the trade front. Now, the whole idea that no team wants him, that's not what was reported. That was misaggregated in a horrific way with zero context. That's not what was reported. In fact, what was reported was that this just completely caught teams off guard. So no team is prepared or in a position where they're ready to go trade for LeBron James. All the teams have been lining up all their ducks in a row for free agency, which is, again, starting today, not preparing to go chase LeBron. Like this was out of left field and a surprise to everybody. That's what was being reported about that situation. So we'll see what winds up happening with that situation. Now, that said, I would not expect a team to have to give up a lot to get LeBron James if he does ask out, because he has a no trade clause. He would want to go to a team that doesn't strip itself of assets in order to go win right now. And players of his age with a no trade clause, typically you're not going to get a big return there. So I do expect there would be interest, though, in him. Somebody asked, how is LeBron's letter to Luka's agent not tampering? How would it be? LeBron and Luka are both under contract with the same team right now. And their players, the tampering stuff doesn't tend to apply to players. It's part of the reason why Chandler Parsons for years was like a very nice player to have on your team, because he was so good at coordinating with players in free agency and making moves happen behind the scenes. Players talking, the NBA doesn't try to police players talking to players. They don't try to police that. If it's a team contacting other teams' free agents, then yeah, the league can get involved. They're not going to try to police players talking to other players, though. Let's see what we got here. Mark Stein, Russell Westbrook has emerged as a free agent target for the Knicks, and Al Horford for Golden State. I think Golden State makes a lot of sense with Al Horford. Heat and Bulls remain the two likeliest suitors for Jonathan Kuminga. We're just talking about here. Interesting. Lakers expected to show interest in DeAnthony Melton as well, according to Mark Stein. That's great news. I'm very high on DeAnthony Melton. But Russell Westbrook for the Knicks. I just talked about Tyus Jones to the Knicks. That's a really interesting option for New York. I think I might prefer Tyus Jones there. But that's interesting. That's interesting. And I love the idea of DeAnthony Melton for the Lakers as a target, assuming Finney Smith is gone. And that also would suggest that the Lakers would indeed be splitting that mid-level exception. So I like that a lot from the Lakers' perspective. Russell Westbrook for the Knicks. I think I'd rather have Tyus Jones there to be more of a low mistake guard, but I get the infusion of athleticism that the Knicks could use, the burst that Russell Westbrook could bring. And beyond that, just having another option at the backup guard position. That's interesting too for New York. So some new stuff coming out there. And obviously there's going to be a lot happening over the next, whatever it is, 3 hours here until free agency begins. A lot of stuff going down right now. Exciting time of year. And again, appreciate all of you who are here with me. Appreciate everybody who's hanging out. And if you've not done so yet, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. By the way, Al Horford is a target for the Warriors. I just talked about Jonathan Kuminga to the Bulls or to the Heat. That is still a thing. That was just really revealed by Stein. But Al Horford, I love that target for the Warriors. Great fit, can pass the ball, can shoot from outside, so you don't have the same concerns as Jonathan Kuminga, where he's not offering enough floor spacing. Smart player. Combine a veteran like Horford with Draymond Green, with Jimmy Butler, with Steph Curry. Makes a lot of sense. Al Horford to the Warriors makes a lot of sense on a number of different fronts. I love that. I love that for Golden State. Cody Martin also going to be a free agent. Yes, indeed. That's a great point there. The Suns are going to move on from him. And so that will allow Cody Martin to hit free agency. Am I going live on LED? I will, yeah, for free agency. If something big happens between now and then I'll go live. But I'm planning on being live when the clock strikes proverbial midnight, which is 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'll go live a little bit before that. And we'll be talking through things. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for all your hard work, Trev. Appreciate you. Thank you. Let's go here. It's all posturing. If LeBron's goal is to win another championship, he wouldn't come to the Lakers in 2018. Well, 2018 LeBron was, 35? I mean, big difference there, right? When the 76ers and Rockets would give him a better chance, he also saw back then that the Lakers had a bunch of young players that he thought could be flipped for a win now piece. And that's exactly what they did. They traded those guys and went and got Anthony Davis and won a championship. So I don't think, and I also think it's a mistake to assume that LeBron's goals and plans back in 2018 would be the exact same as they are today. Jay said, I'm really upset about the DFS situation. It's unfortunate. It is. But again, I understand if it's a 4-year deal, why the Lakers might balk at giving him that. Mathurin might be a name to watch for trade. Yes, good point. Indy won't compete this year. I don't know if I would go there. You never know in the East. They can't afford to pay him after they pay Turner. The guy I'd actually, and I do think Mathurin is a good name to keep an eye on. The question is Indiana willing to still pay the tax? Now that we've got this horrible, unfortunate injury to Tyrese Halliburton, is Indiana still willing to pay the luxury tax? Because that was all the word coming out of Pawnee, was that Indiana would pay the tax. For the first time, they were going to pay the tax, keep that team together. With Halliburton hurt, will they still do that? If not, we could look to see them shed some salary. Now, I still imagine they will keep Miles Turner. But what we heard last trade deadline was that they were looking to move players like Obi Toppin potentially, and he was awful in Game 7 unfortunately, because he did have some other big games in the series. But Obi Toppin could be a player that they look to move, or Benedict Mathurin could be another way to clear some salary off the books if you are the Indiana Pacers. So I think that's interesting for them. When we look into the tax, they right now have $19.9 million in space under the tax, but they still have to pay Miles Turner, which is probably going to cost them like $30 million. So you're going to need to shed $10 million plus if you're really going to fill out your roster, if you want to avoid the tax. And that you go look at Obi Toppin, $14 million would make some sense for him to be that guy. Now, again, but maybe the Pacers just say, you know what? Halliburton's hurt. But we went to the finals. We're just going to keep this group together. We'll pay the tax. And they just keep Obi Toppin. And they keep Ben Mathurin. We could see that. Hey, Trev, many teams seem to be clearing salaries for the 26-27 season. I don't want to be disrespectful, but why? It isn't a particularly strong free agent class. Go Lakers from Argentina. Well, I mean, Luka could be available. Obviously, the Lakers hope he won't. But in 2026, he could be if he doesn't sign a new deal with the Lakers, he'd be a free agent. Damian Lillard would be a free agent. Now, what's his value at now that he's torn his Achilles? LeBron James, Brad Beal, Kevin Durant's probably come to an extension. Zach LaVine, Luka, Trae Young, James Harden. Now, a lot of these guys will extend, but De'Aaron Fox. I mean, there's some guys there. And teams also, remember, are going to value. Let's take a look at 2027. Who can be a free agent then? Oh, Steph Curry. Again, these guys will probably all do extensions, though. But Giannis, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, Damian Lillard again. Maybe older players, but Jokic, Nikola Jokic in 2027. Just saying. Cat. Like, there's some names here. Now, again, this list will diminish the closer we get to 2027 and 2026 because players will sign extensions. And that's been more how we've seen player movement go in the modern NBA. It's been via trade after players are doing extensions. They're eventually getting traded rather than signing as free agents. But teams are opening up cap space, not just so they can sign free agents, but also for flexibility to make other moves. Some teams will also be looking to reset things, drop them below the second tier apron, depending on what situation the club is in. So there is still a benefit to having wiggle room below the cap and having cap space. You don't have to use it just to buy players in free agency, though. But there will be some names out there that I think teams will have quite a bit of interest in. So it's something worth watching. Walter taking over soon. Don't see why Luka would sign up for this roster. And if I'm Walter, I'm not paying $5 billion for a team without the two best assets. Well, again, what is the plan? What plan is being presented to Luka? What does he want to hear? What does he want? That's, we talk, what does LeBron want in this situation? That doesn't matter as much to the Lakers at this point. What matters is, what does Luka want? What does he want? Because that is their number one. No matter what else happens this summer, the most important thing for the Lakers is that Luka signs his extension. Everything else is secondary to that. So that's the question. What does Luka want? Is Luka on board? And I would imagine the Lakers have had these conversations with him. Is he on board with keeping the cap clean for 2026 and then making a move? And if not, well, then maybe they go a different way. But it's, what does Luka want? What is he willing to sign up for? What is he looking to get? That's the question. Now, by the way, if I am the Lakers, and this is me personally, but if I'm the Lakers and Luka does not sign that extension, I'm immediately putting him on the trade block. You cannot allow him to get to free agency. You can't. If he declines an extension, it's not enough of a financial incentive to let him get to free agency and then see if he's going to sign or not. It would be devastating to the franchise if he walked away for nothing. If he does not sign that extension, you immediately move to trade him. Have to. Doesn't mean you have to trade him. You could trade him all the way up to the trade deadline. But if he doesn't want to sign an extension, and by the way, we've got zero indication that's what he wants. In fact, he has said the opposite several times. So I do not think that's the world we're going to be living in. If it is, from the Lakers side of things, and you can make an argument why Luka should do that. But if he does, you immediately move to trade him if you're the Lakers. You have to. You can't get zero return for Luka if he walks in free agency. Can't do it. Can't do it. And if he doesn't sign the extension, he's gone. You immediately put him on the market and get as much value as you can. That's me. Not speaking for the Lakers. That's me. That's what I'd be looking to do. Because you cannot do that. Yeah, but again, that is the extreme side of this. As Marcus said, they've met with Luka multiple times this offseason already. He's fully aware of what's going on. Yeah, I'm not that worried about that being the world that we're living in. I don't think that's going to happen. Nothing. The Lakers aren't going to do anything right now. Look, Anthony Davis a few years ago was to the point of being maybe even a little bit annoyed because all summer during free agency and the trade market, Rob Pelinka was blowing up his phone. Like, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? What do you think? The Lakers keep stars very engaged in their whole process. There's zero chance that Luka is unaware of what the Lakers' plans are or is in disagreement with their plans. And if he was, this would not be the Lakers' plan. They would do whatever it is Luka prefers them to do. They will give him whatever contract he wants. If he wants a 4-year deal, he wants a 3-year deal with the player option, they will do whatever he wants. It's Luka's team now. It is. All right. Like Marcus knows. No, Luka was, seen meeting with the Lakers. In fact, right after the season, he was seen meeting with Rob Pelinka, with JJ Redick. They went to a restaurant together with Luka's business manager. That's not that guy just making something up. So you're saying LeBron knew? About the AD trade? I've questioned how much LeBron actually knew. Did they really just not tell LeBron anything about an AD trade for Luka? Did they really keep it that quiet? Was it really a surprise for him? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But okay, everybody. Obviously, as things happen around the NBA, we'll be right here in the Basketball Bulletin. We'll be breaking down more stuff. I do want to dig into the latest from Mark Stein. Take a look at that. And get ready, because clock's ticking, everybody. Clock's ticking. We're less than 3 hours away from the official start of free agency. Expecting some fireworks. Let's go. Appreciate all of you. Please make sure you do subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications and like this video before you get out of here. Anything else big happens? Anything else going on? We'll jump back on. We'll at least put out a video, things of that nature. But again, seriously, didn't know what kind of support Basketball Bulletin would have when I launched this, when we got this going, and can't appreciate all of you guys enough. Been absolutely phenomenal. Been blown away by the response. So thank you, seriously, to all of you out there. Till next time, you guys. See ya, and stay safe.